Well, hello everyone, and thank you all for taking the time to participate in today's webinar. My name is Matthew Schell. I'm Capstone's Business Development Manager, where I aid our high school and our career and technical education users, both instructors and students. And the reason we decided to conduct this webinar today is that, as many of you may know, it can be very difficult to find practical and experiential learning solutions, more so for business classes. But what I'd like to go ahead and start by doing is just quickly go over an agenda of what we'll be covering today. So what we'll do is we'll start by hearing a bit about us here at Capstone, including our history and our current reach around the globe from our Director of Client Services, Mr. Carter Allagood. And then from there, we're going to briefly go through 4 of our high school level business simulations and assessments. After that, we'll go ahead and explain the pricing for all of these products before we finally, of course, invite you to try the solutions yourself and detail our upcoming student challenge as well as our referral program. And then this webinar is also being recorded and we'll provide it to you shortly after it's concluded. And if you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to submit them in the chat and we'll go ahead and answer those at the end. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and hand it off to Mr. Carter Allagood.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Hello, everybody. My name is Carter Allagood. I run academic sales here at Capstone. We've been around as a company for more than 30 years, developing business simulation software predominantly for university and corporate clients. We have a number of simulations targeted at multiple student levels. In each of them, the students are given a chance to run all aspects of a business in a risk-free but engaging environment. On the academic front, we work with more than 900 universities and 2,000 professors to deliver simulations to more than 125,000 students per year. Our simulations are used in 60 countries across 6 continents. Many of these students are in undergraduate and MBA courses like business strategy, finance, economics, and accounting. Recently, in the last year or so, we developed a couple products targeted to high school students. I'm pleased to say we've had some success there, working with a number of the schools that you see on your screen, and many other schools across the United States have adopted simulations and soft skill assessments to use in their programs. One thing I do want to highlight is a real key differentiator between us and some of our competitors, which is the amount of support that we provide to students and teachers. We have a team of people available on the phone for 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, and also email after hours and all during the weekend as well. The team's there to help users with software, help students with using the software, and also to help teachers understand how to best apply it in their classroom. And now to show you some of the features of the software, I'll turn it over to Matt.
Thank you, Carter. So now what I'd like to go ahead and do is provide you all with that brief overview of 4 of our high school focused solutions, with 2 of which are going to be more focusing on students' technical and analytical skill development, and then the other 2 focus on assessing and developing students' soft skills. And we'll actually be starting with our entry-level business simulation, Capsule Core, which was designed specifically with high school, career and technical education, and undergrad level intro to business classes in mind. So in Capsule Core, students are going to be taking the role of a leadership team of a $40 million company where they're going to learn how various departments interact as they strive to incrementally improve their company over a series of rounds. And with each team of students represented by a company, they're going to be competing directly against their peers within a closed marketplace to try to become the leader of the sensor industry. But before the students ever step foot in the simulation, we provide them with a very comprehensive and completely self-directed training module that serves 2 main purposes. So first, we want to introduce the student to the technical aspects of the simulation, such as how do I make my decisions, where do I make those decisions, and where can I review my results. And then secondly, we introduce the students to the business concepts that they're going to be encountering in the simulation. Because the main goal, of course, is that we want them to be spending more time learning about business as opposed to how do I use the simulation. Now, also as an instructor, you're going to be able to set up practice rounds, see individual student progress, and you can even make completion of the training module a gradable component if you wish. But by the end of the first hour, the students will have already had a hands-on experience, they'll have demonstrated their understanding of the basics of the sim, and will have had practice with the decision-making process that they'll go on to use during the course of the simulation. And once the onboarding has been completed, students are going to be ready to jump right into the simulation. And really the core of the student experience is all about discovery through cross-functional decision making. So during the course of 8 simulated years, or what we call rounds, they're going to be making some very basic business strategy decisions across 4 common departments, being R&D, marketing, production, and finance. And each year, they'll have to evaluate the effectiveness of their decisions by analyzing an industry report and learning from their mistakes, as well as capitalizing on their strengths. So what this does is it provides students with exposure to analysis, critical thinking, and reflection throughout the course of the simulation as they're constantly getting feedback. But what decisions will the students actually be making? Well, they're going to first start in the R&D department. And here, they're going to be setting a product strategy. So they're going to be inventing and designing these sensor products to meet the needs of 2 markets. From there, they'll go on to the marketing department, and they'll be setting product prices, marketing budgets, and creating some sales forecasts too. Next, they're going to go ahead and execute their vision in the production department, and this is where they'll be producing their products to sell, as well as expanding their plant over time. And then finally, they're going to move on to the finance department, where they'll be using short-term and long-term debt to fund their operations and the decisions they made in the other departments. Now, after all of these decisions have been made, the round is then processed, and then the results come in. And in Capstone Core, students are going to be evaluated on 5 key metrics, being sales, profit, contribution margin, and stock price. And if they've shown improvement over last year's numbers for these metrics, they'll receive a star, and if they do not, then they don't get a star. But in regards to that 5th star, students must be able to raise enough capital to get their company through the year. And if they don't, they're going to go ahead and receive an emergency loan, and they'll lose a star for that round. But if in the event that you don't like this type of scoring setup, we're more than happy to help you customize these metrics to better suit your class. Now, as an instructor, you're going to be able to break down the action with the help of Capsule Core's debrief tool. And what this is it's basically an automated analysis of how all of your students perform for the current round. And it's going to provide you with custom discussion topics. And if your students are struggling with a particular metric, the debrief tool is going to provide you with the tips that you can share with them to help them turn their performance around. And what you're going to find is that when you're debriefing results to students, there's always this sense of anticipation in the room. You know, they really want to see how well they did. They're sitting there and they're speculating as to, did we do good, did we do bad, and they're always on the edge of their seat. And once you reveal those results, you're going to see a whole array of emotions based on those results and based on which team you're looking at. And one thing to keep in mind is that, you know, as you're planning your course, you know, we really built Capstone Core to be very flexible and modular. And we've seen this used in all sorts of formats, whether it's a quarter or a year-long class. We see it used as a homework assignment or even as a class project. But really, it's all about meeting the learning objectives and trying to streamline the content to cover what is most relevant to your particular class. And a really good example I give would be, say you're teaching a marketing class where finance may not be the main focus, or perhaps you have a separate accounting class. Well, what we did was we added policy decisions. And what these are is they allow you to semi-automate a department, which is going to consolidate all the decisions in any department into one, where the students will select if they'd like to take on an aggressive, a moderate, or a conservative approach. So students are still playing a role in that department as opposed to us just simply turning off to the department. And now the last thing I wanted to cover in regards to Capstone Core is our bundle, or our class-in-a-box option, if you will. So if you're looking for a more turnkey solution for your course, the Capstone Core bundle is going to include the simulation, as well as quizzes, case studies, and an e-textbook for each student that align directly with the sim for a more comprehensive learning experience. And most importantly, since all of these resources were developed hand in hand, all of the terminology and concepts are going to be congruent across these resources. And now that we've provided a general overview of Capstone Core, I'd like to go ahead and take a moment to introduce you all to our newest simulation, Capstone Global. So Capstone Global is actually quite similar to Capstone Core in terms of its style and substance, with the main difference being that we're moving away from an entry-level domestic business simulation to an entry-level international business simulation. And within Capstone Global, the user interface, the departments, and the decisions from Capstone Core are fairly alike, but some key additions were added to give it that more international focus. So those changes and additions include switching the products from sensors to medical genetic testing devices, as well as the introduction of 2 new markets in China and Germany, in addition to the US. And those changes and additions include varying segment sizes, different growth rates across these 3 markets. There's going to be regionally specific buying criteria that will allow your students to customize their product to that particular country. And then we also added currency exchange rates, transaction fees, tax rates, tariffs, and shipping costs as well. And this is basically a very quick synopsis of Capstone Global. Now with Capsule Core and Global, the emphasis is more on that technical and analytical skill development of the student. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and switch gears to the other side of one's career development by focusing on that soft skill development. And while our main focus is on academia, as Carter was stating, we also provide several types of professional development opportunities for some of the world's largest corporations, a few of which you can see here. And as a result, we pay very close attention to what our corporate clients are looking for in existing as well as new employees. And with that feedback, in addition to quite a bit of research on our end, it indicates that we're really at a critical moment at this point in time in regards to student soft skill development, where it's the most sought after and least common skill out of new applicants. And I'm of course referring to soft skills such as leadership capabilities, communicative abilities, and problem solving abilities as well. So therefore, we decided to really do something completely different than what we've ever done before, and we created Capsule Inbox. And this is truly unique because it's the world's first simulation-based soft skills assessment. And with Capsule Inbox, you're going to be able to assess and develop each of your students' soft skills and be provided with a snapshot in time as to where that student's skills are. And what kind of skills are we measuring? Well, we're going to be measuring their initiating, problem solving, organizing, leading, and communicative qualities. So after a very quick onboarding, the students are asked the following question. Relative to your peers, where do you place yourself for each of these soft skills on a scale of 0 to 100, so on a percentile basis? And what this does is it's essentially a pretest before going into the inbox simulation. Now, within the assessment, students are going to be taking the role of a middle-level manager at an Internet of Things company very much like Google. And they've just returned from a long vacation, and they have to respond to a series of emails from their supervisors and subordinates within 60 minutes time. And additionally, we're looking at the student's time management, as well as the consistency and the proficiency of the responses throughout the exercise. And after attempting to select the most effective email responses in the simulation, those results are then going to be compared against their self-assessment. And we provide the students with a very detailed feedback report that's going to hit on their overall performance in relation to other high school Capsule Inbox users. We discuss their self-awareness, as well as visually show them their skill gaps for each of the soft skills while indicating what areas are in most need for improvement. And from there, things really start to get interesting as we use the students' results to have them build a self-created individual development plan that'll provide them with actionable goals to improve on those soft skills. Now, what's also really unique about Capsule Inbox is that it's really much like a platform in that it allows for several different narratives that are not solely business focused, but can focus on other career cluster areas as well. In fact, we currently have 3 versions of Capsule Inbox. The one we've primarily been discussing is the general management version. However, we have additional versions including people management, which has a more human resources focus. And we actually just released ethical decision making, where they take the role of a manager at a hotel and they have to deal with all sorts of different ethical conundrums. And while still focusing on soft skills, we're coming to a close on Inbox here. I'd like to go ahead and move on to the last solution that we'll be highlighting today, which brings us to Teammate. And what Teammate is our online peer and group assessment tool that allows you to administer a series of assessments that capture feedback on how your students performed at the individual and at the group level. So a good way to think about this is think of a digital version of the typical paper assessment, seeing how your group and how individual members did, with the goal really being to provide your students with the crucial feedback to help them improve their effectiveness in a team setting. Because this, working in a team, it's something that's going to be required across virtually all careers out there. So what's unique about Teammate is it's really not just suitable for business classes, but basically any class where group work is present. And the peer assessments are going to evaluate each student's performance, and you can utilize these for grading, while the team assessments offer developmental opportunities and feedback to help them identify their teamwork strengths and weaknesses. And it's also going to provide you and your students with some interactive graphs, as well as additional resources such as videos for some more self-directed learning. And it's very flexible to fit your needs in that it can be purchased as either for an individual class or how we more commonly see it as a site license for the entire institution. That way, if you wanted to run a survey or an assessment within your particular class or all the way at the school level, you have that option available to you. So now that we've gone ahead and covered our 4 high school solutions, I just wanted to quickly note that with any combination of these simulations and assessments, you're really going to give your students an all-encompassing development of the skills that are really going to be necessary to give them that competitive advantage. You know, whether they're choosing to continue their education or if they're going to go ahead and enter directly into the workforce. And now that we've covered the 4 solutions, I'd like to go ahead and discuss the pricing of these different products. So just to start with our different payment options, we're very flexible in that regard. More often than not, we can just invoice the institution directly. However, we can also provide licenses directly to the bookstore, or we can have the students pay directly through our secure website via credit card as well. And then in regards to pricing, so starting with Capsule Core, the simulation itself is $20 per student, and this is a student license, so it's the same price regardless of the length of the course. And if you wanted to go ahead and add that bundle, which included the e-textbook, the quizzes, as well as the case studies, it would just be an additional $7 for a total of $27 per student. Capstone Global's pricing is the exact same at $27. And with Capstone Inbox, it's $10 per student use. And in regards to Capstone Inbox, we also offer a pre-test, post-test option, which will allow you 2 uses per student. And the reason we did this is because we very commonly see Capsule Inbox used in business communication courses, for example, where the students are going to be completing the assessment once at the beginning of the class and then at the end of the class to assess their overall development. And what this does is it's essentially providing you with a second use for half off, and this is relevant for any of the 3 versions of Capsule Inbox that we discussed. And then finally, we have Teammate. So Teammate is $10 per student, and this is for unlimited assessments and surveys within a given academic year. However, as we said, site licenses are more common, and they can be much more cost-effective too, and they can reduce that per student price by well over 50%. And just to note again that all of this pricing information will be provided to you via email, which will be included with the recording of this webinar. And then one final note on this page, I did want to highlight that all of our simulations and assessments are also Perkins funding eligible. So these are federally allocated funds that are distributed to the states for the purpose of improving career and technical education, with us underneath the banner of marketing, finance, and business management specifically. And then also there's ADA compliancy. So one of the things that also differentiates us from a lot of the other sims out there is that our simulations and assessments are level AA ADA compliant and certified. And what this means is that if there's any color considerations or any closed captioning consideration, we meet all of those specific considerations. So what I'd like to go ahead and move on to now is I'd like to invite you all to try our simulations yourself to see if they're a good fit, not just for your particular class, but for your own teaching style. And the way that it works is that with this post-webinar email you'll receive, you'll be able to schedule a time at your convenience to have a one-on-one product demo with me myself personally. And what we can do is we can dive deeper into any of these solutions, and at the end of which I can provide you with both a student and an instructor demo account. So that way you can kind of try it from both perspectives. And another cool thing I'd like to go ahead and highlight is that we're happy to announce that Capsule Core was just recently selected by EdTech Digest as a 2018 Cool Tool finalist in the Games for Learning / Simulation Solutions category. And then another thing we'd like to go ahead and highlight is our very first inaugural Capsule Core Summer Invitational, where we're going to have students from all across the country be competing within Capsule Core for some very cool cash prizes, including for the business coach, which would basically be our contact as an instructor. We'll be providing free licenses to the first place business coach of the winning team for any one section of one class. And this information will be included within the post-webinar email as well. And finally, I'd like to go ahead and share with you our referral program. So if you do have a colleague out there whom you believe would really benefit from adopting Capstone solutions, you can go ahead and refer them. And if they do choose to adopt, both you and your referee will receive a $50 Amazon gift card to help you with classroom supplies. So this pretty much concludes the main parts of today's webinar. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and open up to see if we have any questions. Okay, Carter, do we have any questions?
Yeah. Got a couple. If anybody has any other questions, there is a questions panel on your screen that you can type in there. A few people have already utilized it. Here's one. What common classes do you see these being used in?
Okay, well, yeah, absolutely. Great question. So I would say that in regards to Capsule Core as well as Capstone Global, we really see these in, your intro to business class. If there was one class in particular, I would say entrepreneurship. We really see it a lot there, but also in business fundamentals classes and some subject-specific ones as well, whether it be intro to marketing, for example. We do see them used there, as well as accounting courses. For Capstone Inbox, again, kind of more the entrepreneurial side, the intro to business side of things. But we're starting to see applications outside of those kind of classes as well. It's more general. And then as far as teammate, as I said, with it being anything based around team work, you can basically apply that into any sort of course.
When we developed these, one thing that we had in mind was to make them as interesting as possible, to try to get students excited about business, potentially choosing that as a career or major when they go to college.
Yeah, and Carter brings up a very good point, because more often than not at the high school level, this is probably the first time they're being introduced to these types of concepts. And with this kind of being a practical experience where they're exposed to the different departments, they may say, hey, I kind of like setting prices or maybe doing sales forecasting. Maybe I should look into marketing as an undergrad. Or maybe I kind of like more the finance side of things, and maybe I should have pursued a degree in accounting, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. How does the simulation fit into the class format at the high school level?
Okay, another good question. So, like I said, we see this used in all different, a variety of different formats, and it really kind of lends itself to that flexibility and modularity that we kind of touched on. Like I said, we hit on, whether it's used as a homework assignment, we see this used in flipped classroom settings. We see it used in the classroom, whether it's, like I said, it could be a quarter-long class or a year-long class. We can kind of make the simulation fit into any kind of format you'd like to see it in. So, yeah.
All right, good. And then are you affiliated with any career technical student organizations?
Yes, actually we are. Right now we're currently national sponsors of both Business Professionals of America and to the Future Business Leaders of America as well. And we very commonly both exhibit and have presentations at these events too. So if you're a part of that, be sure to let us know or come by and stop by at either the BPA or the FBLA conference coming up this summer. So yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Any other questions?
No, that's it. But please, anybody, feel free to let us know. Also, if you're interested in a demo, you can type demo into one of those boxes, and we'll reach out to you.
Absolutely. Well, with that, I'd like to go ahead and close it out and just say, again, thank you all very much for your time today. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And have a great day.
All right. Excellent. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.